So I told you I went to that wedding in Italy, and that's my buddy, and
Yeah.
he is like actually fuck you loaded, like doesn't know what to do with his money, and
He's
so
the one with the social media company?
owns a big social media agency, and it's funny going out with him because like he has like the twofer, like not young, but he's my age, so it's, you're in your 30s. It's like you're not old yet.
Right.
You're on the cusp. You're getting there. But, like, you can go into a place and it's totally not weird for you to be there yet. You know what I mean? If you wear, like, trendy jeans, people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that.
He's about our age.
Yeah. But he also has so much money that he will, like, he'll go to Las Vegas and say, whatever the biggest table is, and he'll just drop, like, 50 grand to fucking get it and just, like, be debaucherous. And then kick the girls out because he's like, more dudes, more, and because he just doesn't care at all. He
I love that.
No,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he just wants his like best guy friends
Yep.
to like party and like have a great time.
Yeah.
Because he runs a big sales team.
Yeah.
And I mean he's married.
Yeah.
So it's like I've seen him he'll like push girls away with his foot. And just like get out of here.
I love that. He's just like I'm just here for my bros.
I'm just here for the dude.
And I love that on both sides. Like whenever I go with my girlfriends who have like absolutely zero interest in like meeting dudes, we have the best night ever.
Yeah.
And not that I don't have fun with my girlfriends that are like, out
prowling,
on the prowl, but it's a different feeling.
It's also just been a while since I've like really gone out like that. I mean, I will go out, but if I go out, it's only on a date. I mean, like I go out, me and the girl I'm dating, or out on a date, and then that date just turns into like bar hopping. Later in the night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's probably the only thing that I've done in a long time.
I don't blame you.
It's kind of. You know what also bothers me is like this is how. I don't know if it makes me sound old, but I guess it's also where I'm from. In St. Louis, where I grew up.
Yeah.
If you went out to go dance. Like, it's just kind of like a different, like, you just, like, I don't know, you, like, got ready, we pre-drank, and then you went to a place and there's, like, music on, everybody's just, like, dancing. like grinding? Like, grinding, yeah, I don't know, just, like, it's hard to explain now because, like.
Downtown St. Louis?
Yeah.
There was that.
Yeah, but like nobody. But when
I think that's a little old now, though.
I think so. But like I remember the last couple times, it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago or something, being out in like Scottsdale, and like I got drunk, and so I'm like trying to make a dance floor at El Jefe. I'm like clearing people out so I can.
You're like. Whose dad is here?
And like and my buddy, he's 6'3", 250, and another buddy of ours, he's just as big. We're all just dancing, having a blast. And I didn't really realize until like a little later, I was like, oh, this is just us. Like there's no one around enjoying any part of this.
You guys are like a bunch of like peacocks in the middle with your feathers up. And not a single person was
and like big time dancing too, like making a twirl space around me. And like, but that to me is like fun. I just get drunk and I'm like, yeah, I want to dance.
Yeah.
And then, but dancing is not a thing now.
It's not.
Not at all.
In St. Louis, whenever I was living there, there was one bar that was like at the back of a country bar that was the grinding zone.
The fuck are you
and
about?
And you would walk through this country bar, and then on the back side of it.
Oh, the PBR bar at like downtown in
No, it was newer whenever I was living there. So it was there's one in Nashville too.
Yeah, but you're talking at Ballpark Village.
No.
Oh.
Outside of Ballpark Village.
Oh.
Like the creepy area that Wheelhouse is in?
Oh, yeah.
Over there. Over
yeah.
there.
Oh.
Wheelhouse was dancey too, actually.
Yeah, no, Wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Wheelhouse. Like you would just go there, and there was a whole section just to dance.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. The DJ was there, pump music. You couldn't get a drink over on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like what it was.
My favorite part about living in St. Louis was that we would go to these like clubs at night, and like we would be, 21, 22-year-olds, and anything that we needed to do. Okay, not anything. I'm not gonna get crazy. But to get in that VIP section, I'm like, okay, you can take me on a date, security guy.
Yeah.
And we'd walk up there, you know, we'd be like thriving. That was the time of our lives, or peaking. And then I'd go to my accounting job the next Monday, and I'd be at that same bar getting a chicken salad and having
That's
like
a very
an
St. Louis
iced
thing.
tea. And I'm like, I just saw somebody puke on that floor right there the other day. I was begging the security guard to take me on a date so that I could get in VIP. And now I'm here with my accounting coworkers having a chicken salad.
Yeah, that's a very St. Louis thing. That the other bar next to it called the Flying Saucer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like kind of next to Wheelhouse, all that over there. That was like my place. Yeah, that was like where I would go to eat, get real wasted.
I feel like the Flying Saucer is now the one that is the country bar with the live music.
Totally.
On the corner.
I don't know. I haven't been there in so long. It probably is.
Do you ever go back to St. Louis? Is your family there?
I don't have any. Like, I do have family there, but they're like the family I am not really close with.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, as soon as I'd moved my dad out here, I didn't really go back there.
Yeah. I feel like St. Louis is like the ultimate going out in a bald cap. Like, like it doesn't matter what you look like.
No one
It
gives a
doesn't matter
fuck.
what you're wearing. If you showered that day, you're out, and I mean, you're having the time of your life, but it's ratchet.
It is very ratchet. And I didn't realize that growing up there, how I think it's because Budweiser's from there. It's like a very alcoholic city.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is wasted.
That's all you do.
And like drinking at like 3 or 4 o'clock is okay. Like, nobody really cares about that either.
During work.
Yeah, during work.
We'd be
They're
on a
like,
Wednesday.
oh, well, it's past lunch. You can have a couple to, you know, knock a couple off, you know, and like nobody gave a shit.
No.
Yeah.
Even whenever I was working, you know, at an accounting firm, I remember like my coworkers were so, because most of them are from St. Louis. Like, most of them grew up there, went to school out there, everything, and I'm coming over from Illinois. And so I was kind of like the outsider coming in, because everybody's like, what high school did you go to? I'm like, Illinois. And they're like, we don't care. But like they drank and like with each other and were not embarrassed on Monday if they had been like puking on Friday night. And then they're like, so do you have that audit?
Just another day.
And I was flabbergasted by that.
You know what this got me thinking? All right, so I feel like there's these cycles. It's like, it was like cool to dance in the 80s, not cool to dance in the 90s, cool to dance again in like the 2000s. Do you know what I mean? It's like runs in this like
we're getting back to it, you think,
I think it's going to go back.
Yeah.
Like, there's this swing back to it. Maybe not. But
they got to come up with a new like hip dance trend that like the kids are doing that all of the adults are like, that's nasty.
You know what I bet you it'll be?
What?
You know what I'm going to put money on this. You know what, how much you want to bet I'm going to do right?
I cannot wait to hear what you have.
I feel like there's this huge resurgence of like conservative young men and women. Do you know what I mean? Like, things have kind of gotten so like, I don't know, to that other left liberal side. That now it's like cool to like not have premarital sex and like be... Do you know what it's
that is totally coming back.
It's like a coming back thing. It's like you know all this stuff.
Yeah.
I could imagine like 50s swing dancing stuff, like choreographed, put together couples dancing, making a comeback. I bet you. I would put money on that.
I mean, you go to Buffalo Chip and you see it right there.
Yeah.
So you know, country dancing, but like
that's true.
that's.
But
there's
I mean,
a lot
like, but I mean, like on MTV, like fucking making its way back into the public. You listen to me.
On MTV, you think?
Is MTV even a thing anymore? Does it even exist?
I don't know.
Okay, so hold on. Let me take this all the way around. So in fitness has been at a peak for probably 10 years now. Like, it's had peaks before where it was like cool in the 70s to do karate. Do you know what I mean? Marathon running became like a big thing in the 80s. But kind of what I would call now, I don't want to call it bodybuilding, but like ostensibly what you do, like do it to look really good, but also healthy too. But the healthy thing's kind of the second part of it.
Yeah.
That's been a thing for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
Is that going to go away?
You know, I got a little worried whenever the Kardashians came out and they were like, stick thin. This happened like a year ago, maybe, or like maybe 2 now. And
Oh, I do remember that.
they like stopped dating black guys, started dating white guys, took out their butts, and got really skinny.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody in the fitness industry that I follow, like the female fitness influencers, there was like an uproar because they were like, you guys are not doing this to us again. Like, you guys cannot take us back to the like cocaine chic, you know, that was like big in the 2000s. And I feel like this is what I felt like at the time. Social media there's a lot of like weaknesses to it, but there's a lot of strengths to social media. And I feel like that's one of them, is that a lot of influencers came out and were like, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, whatever their like motive was, whether it was like money or like truly like, you can't do this to us again. I feel like they did a really good job of speaking out and being like, no, we're not doing that. Like, women's bodies aren't a fashion statement. I'm speaking, you know, primarily from the female's point of view, but I hope not. Like, we are finally in a place where, again, from the female's point of view, but, you know, I know there's a male perspective as well, but women are excited to be strong. Yeah. They're not worried as much about the, like, aesthetic of their body, as in, like, getting small, getting, you know, whatever. And I love that. I love the, like, confidence factor of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is like in a good place right now.
Yeah.
But it is whenever something is like hot, and it is just like, fitness is just trendy right now.
Right.
Like, it's just cool.
Yeah.
Like, you got to imagine it's either going to change or it's going to go away.
Right.
At some point in time.
Right.
But then I also think about this a lot. Maybe fitness really won't go away, but what it'll do is kind of level off in a way, like, you know, the way that I see fitness, of course, because I'm right about everything, is that, like, fitness is just is like, you know, there's like your personal health. You gotta stay alive.
Yeah.
There's like relationships with people, and then like there's your wealth, your money, right? Your career, stuff like that. So I can see it just kind of like, for a while it was really important, but now seeing like health and being in shape as like part of, also it helps you have better relationships and be better at work. Yeah. It's kind of part of this trifecta of things. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's already shifted that way. Yeah. Like, whenever, you know, fitness influencers became really big, I do think that it was more trendy to only be just fitness. Like, you're showing your body, you're showing your exercises, and that was kind of it. That was all that you got from them. And now it's getting to be more trendy to show the real side of you. Like, even on my social media page, people relate to more my like genuine content versus just like my workouts and showing like my body. Yeah. So I think it's already going there where people, and like back to the Kardashians, twice in one podcast. There's like a perfect video where Kylie Jenner like tried to be relatable by like showing what's in her like $20,000 purse, you know, and she's like, stars are just like you. Yeah. And everybody's like, you're not.
Get the fuck
like,
out of here.
You know, and so she's even trying to keep up with trends by being like, look, I'm not that far off from you, you know, but she's just so out of touch. But that's kind of what people are trying to do on social media, is be more relatable, which ends up being more on like the
authentic,
doing it to
realistic,
be healthy rather than just like striving for that body that's unachievable. So I feel like it's already going that way.
Yeah, you're probably right. It was probably more along that lines. But I, like, how much, because I think about this, about how much time, money, and energy people put into, like, each one of these 3 buckets, right? Like, your relationships, your career, and then your, like, health and fitness.
Yep.
Is, like, depending on how you want to pick career, but it's like, you know, work is, like, you have to do that to survive. But also, like, how many people do I know that, like, get a business coach or like, you know, take extra classes to like learn more about their work and how to do better at it? Because like that seems pretty low compared to the number of people who would like get a personal trainer or get, you know, a class about fitness or like do something like that. Yeah. Is like, that still seems relatively skewed. Or I think even the big one would be like relationships. Like how many people are like seeing a therapist or like reading books on healthy relationships or whatever that thing is. Those numbers, maybe I'm wrong, still seem relatively skewed to fitness.
Yeah.
Because fitness health has a it like when you do well at it, you physically look different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As where like going and doing 20 therapy sessions, you don't come out with abs.
Right.
You know, you may feel better, but nobody else can see it.
Right.
So
it's kind of, I think, like the two birds with one stone, like almost the shortcut of being like, well, this is kind of my therapy. Like I'm doing something for myself.
Yeah, that's true.
And me personally, I know that was my like cop out for so long, was like, but I work out every day. Like I don't need to do everything else.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where it's like kind of like easy street. Like,
yeah, I think sometimes like we place stuff in the wrong basket though. Is like, I think, you know, and honestly from a lot, what I see, I was going through our email list yesterday. We have 20,000 customers. So, I mean, just between all their emails and contacts we've had, and then we write in our system what was their goal, and then what was their hot button. Hot button is what we call like the reason why it's your goal.
Yeah.
Right? And like the vast majority of people, they're working out consciously or unconsciously because they think it's going to help them like attract a mate better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either they went through a divorce or they don't feel confident or sexy anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That really is like 80% of why people are working out.
Well, you also have to remember though that people who are like starting out in their fitness journeys, that is going to be a motivating factor, a huge one. And that probably is a majority of like new customers that you're getting.
Totally.
You know, that are signing up for the email list, that are doing that, like going that extra step.
But then a year or two later down the journey, it's a little different.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, going back to your original question of like, do I think that it's going to, you know, be less trendy? I think it's just going to keep growing. Like, just like you said, there's always going to be fitness of some sort, but what is the next step of it? And I kind of think we're already going into the next step, which is, yes, we're obviously striving for a certain aesthetic, but we're also striving for the mental health, confidence side of it.
That focus. Well, the other thing that I think about too is like the type of fitness that people are doing is it's still so spread out between what I would call kind of like sports athletic training and then like cardiovascular training and then like muscular endurance or hypertrophy, strength conditioning kind of training. And I just have always imagined that there is some kind of like sweet spot in here that we're like not hitting. So here's what I mean. Like, let's say you go to like Orange Theory Fitness.
Yeah.
What they do really well is like gamifying cardio. So like you got a little scoreboard up and you're like, I did the most splat points. And I, you know, like it just turns the workout into a video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then obviously anything that's like sports performance, that you can't say, well, okay, I don't know, I hit the golf ball fucking farther, or whatever. There is like measurable, accountable gamification kind of built into that system.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm giving away a good business idea. But there isn't one for like strength and conditioning, right? Where like you go in, there's a group of people or something, and you're like in a circuit training thing, and it's like, who got the most points? Do you know what I mean? And so that way you can like trigger and get better. It's like gamifying strength and conditioning seems like to me, if you were to do that, that's what people would get the most result from. You would look the most different afterwards. And if you could gamify it in a way that like Orange Theory Fitness does, there would be a lot of like a value to that.
I feel like you're forgetting a huge
huge thing here.
Huge.
What?
CrossFit?
But it's not gamified in a way that like that works.
You mean like there's not a screen?
For the individual playing the game, right? Like, I know what you're saying, like, there's the CrossFit Games.
Right.
But, like, 99% of the people that do CrossFit,
Yeah.
they are not doing that.
Okay, I only have one, like, real experience with CrossFit. Like, I've only been to one CrossFit gym. But I definitely felt like the draw was that. Like, you go in and it's every minute on the minute, or it's as many reps as possible, and they're recording how many reps you got, who got the most that day. So whenever I went, I don't know if it's every gym, but whenever I went, that was definitely the draw for me. Like, I'd be like puking, and I'm like, yeah, but so-and-so got 7 and I'm going to get an 8.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is true. I did CrossFit quite a while. That was probably my favorite out of all of them that I did.
Yeah.
But it's not, the thing is, like, that is not CrossFit. The problem with it is, like, it's not easily accessible to most people.
Yeah, it is a little, like, intimidating as well,
Yeah.
where people, like, beginners aren't
The thing
necessarily...
about, like, Orange Street Fitness and stuff is, like, yeah, the reason it's the most successful fitness company in the whole world because it's, like, easy to bite and chew.
Right.
I just don't think that you can do front squats and, like, have a system to where, like, 80% of Americans could do it. So you have to have, like, at least, this is the idea in my head, is, like, you got to have machines so that way, like, no one's going to hurt themselves.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like a bench press, an overhead press, a leg press, a whatever, you know, just these, like, certain systems of machines, like, you fit into and you're not going to, like, break a femur.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, yes, like, every time you do a rep, it collects points up on a board.
Yep.
Right? And then you can, like, see who's winning and shit.
Yep. So I was going to say, I also feel like F45 does a good job of making strength training not intimidating for the beginner. Like, they have, you know, every age, every demographic of person in there.
Yeah.
And it's, whenever I started going there just this summer was the first time that I, like, started consistently going. It was cool to me to see these people that were, like, 60 that were deadlifting a pretty decent weight. I mean, you know, for circuit style, whatever. And I've always been impressed by that with F45. But I can see what you're saying, where it's like, you don't know necessarily if you're beating yourself from, like, the time prior, if you're progressing.
Yeah.
There really is that lack of, like, progressive overload in F45.
And even if the progressive overload is the thing that works, it's like, also, I just mean, like, a mental game.
Yeah.
Of, like, knowing, hey, last time I scored an 81. This time I'm going to try to get an 82. Hey, dude.
He is so cute.
Yeah.
I cannot stand it.
He is a good-looking boy.
He really is. He's very tall.
One time, this is actually really sad. He was behind the Peak store, and a dude hit him with his car. He got hit by a car. Dented the dude's car and like put a huge dent in his car. And then he just, like, came to me and he was like, I'm sorry. And it, like, came to, like, he, like, thought he did something wrong.
And he was fine.
Totally fine. Didn't fucking do anything to him. Like, fucked this guy's front of his grill up. His car was fucked.
Did the guy stop and say something?
And he was like, I'm sorry. You hit my dog.
It's actually not okay.
Not okay.
Banned
but
from
also,
Peak
like,
stores.
Could you, like, literally will eat anything.
Oh, be
Dude,
perfectly fine.
This guy has eaten more dirty tampons than any fucking dog ever. Okay, I'm gonna go back in and pretend like I didn't do my dog didn't have a breakdown in the middle of that. Okay, so let's say this goes the opposite way.
Yes.
Body positivity, it's great to be fat, blah, 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 whatever.
Yep.
Do you make a pivot and get out of the fitness industry then?
If it goes body positivity?
I don't know, yeah.
No.
No, you keep doing it.
No. I mean, I think everybody, like, grows with where the trends grow, you know? And I think that you have to just kind of pivot as the world pivots and go along with it. I think that if I ever did get out of fitness, like, as in my social media isn't primarily fitness, then it would be whatever I was doing at the time, you know, like, if it's more like motivational or business oriented, or, you know, how to teach other people how to grow their social medias. I'll grow with how the times are growing, but unless it's like super conservative, and then I do have to get out.
Okay, now I do got to get the fuck out of here. Oh, God.
There's a certain point where, like, you know.
You have to, like, walk around. What is that TV show where the women are, like, they have to walk around in, like, nun outfits or whatever? What am I talking about? It's, like, set in the future. There's, like, a dystopian, and it's, like, women have to dress out like they're in the 1800s again.
With the red caps?
Yeah. Like, they're just used for breeding babies. Handmaid's Tale. Yeah. Like, it just goes like that. Like, yeah, you're kind of fucked.
That was also just the world, like, a year ago. He was like, no, this just is the Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, no, I couldn't participate in that part.
That's not what you're shooting for?
Unfortunately, people would see right through me. They'd be like, we know this girl is lying.
That's not real.
Yeah, that would be so unfortunate, though, too. Like, even just, you know, we already kind of talked about it, I think, last week, where we were talking about, like, how much shit women get for, like, dressing the way that they dress in gyms. Yeah. And even just that, like, I have to kind of bite my tongue. So I'm like, I can't really get involved in too much, you know?
Do you really feel like you have to bite your tongue about stuff like that?
Yeah.
Really?
Sometimes. I'm not great at biting my tongue, so, like, I don't always do it. But, like, sometimes I'm like, it's not a battle that I need to fight. You know?
Yeah, I guess I kind of understand that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's dependent on, like, the situation. Like, if it's on social media and it's just, like, a random account that, like, has an opinion, I'm like, that's not worth my time. Mm-hmm. Or if I'm, like, in a professional setting and something like that happens that's not, like, hurting somebody necessarily, like, I might, you know, bite my tongue in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like I've had this conversation with people, is like, okay, so let's say, like, girls wearing something scantily clad at the gym or whatever, right? Is like, I just think it's pretty easy to say, right? There's clearly just, like, two sides to it, and it kind of just, like, this is the thing that I always think about is, like, we always think of things as either good or bad. Right. Rather than, like, oh, if you do this, which one's, you know, there's going to be a little good and a little bad. Right. Which one weighs out better for you? Right. Like, yeah, if you dress really, what's a kind of word? Provocatively. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. And it makes you feel confident and you get better workouts, and then who fucking cares? I don't know. Sure. Right. Whatever. Right. Also, on the other side, if you do it all the time, you're probably going to draw attention from unsavory dudes. Right. I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's like, it just makes sense both ways. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't see how anybody, let's say your opinion is, like, women shouldn't dress like that, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, but you also can see how, like, being fit and being in shape and wearing something that, like, makes you feel good would be cool, right? Right. Like, you do see that. And you ask them, and they're like, oh, yeah, I do see that. But then also, if you talk to a girl who's, like, very on the, I don't know what you would call it. Maybe it's I don't think it's the feminist side, whatever fucking side it is. It's like, could you see how that also could be damaging to the image if you're always looking very scantily clad? Right. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. But the response is always like, yeah, it shouldn't be. And it's like, yeah, I wish the sun didn't rise at 5 a.m. Right. I don't know, but it does. So fucking, that's the thing. Right. I always bring it back to, like, is this hurting somebody? And then I feel like that's just, like, the end of it. Like, is this hurting you that this person is dressed this way? You know, whatever way that it is. And if the answer is no, then, like, the answer is no. They always try and be like, well, no, but. And you're like, but no. It's just no. Yeah. But you know what? What's funny is I actually do totally agree with you, but I always just love the little fight on the other side. Of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It wouldn't be a podcast without that. Wouldn't be that. So there is I told you about my rabbi that I see at night, right? Shmuel. I felt like your rabbi the other night, by the way. Why? I had my hair all curled and I had, like, 2 pieces out, and I was like, oh my God. I'm a rabbi. So Shmuel, I believe is his name. Okay. He came into my supplement store to, like, come and see me. Love that. And I wasn't there. Oh. And so he was talking to one of the guys, and the guy was like, dude, thank you for coming in. It was so nice to meet you, and, like, shook his hand. And then Sarah, who's actually the person who, like, runs kind of all my stores, she tried to shake his hand. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You know, I'm not allowed to do that. Interesting. Yeah, it's like, you can't, he's can't married. Touch a woman. He can't touch another woman. Okay. So it's just kind of it's the same thing to me as like, is this female dressing really provocatively hurting anyone? No. But also, if there's a really conservative dude who, I don't know, it's kind of like whatever you would consider the opposite of that. Like, it's like, yeah, they're kind of entitled to their opinion too. Even if it's like not good. Do you know what I mean? It's like the very other side, very conservative, is like, yeah, but they are allowed to talk, and really, if you're down for the whole American shindig, the thing is that, like, yeah, well, they get to call you a fucking trampy whore, and that's actually their right to do that, you know, and that sucks, but it is, like, what we should believe as Americans.
But I think it goes back to, like, morals.
Morals?
You know?
Yeah.
And, like, okay, so if you call somebody a trampy whore, that is hurting someone. Right?
Well, I guess it by what you mean by like hurting someone.
Like,
do you know what I mean?
Like hurtful words.
Hurtful words.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think we can throw people in jail for hurtful words.
No, definitely not.
So it's like, that's what is the corollary point I'm trying to make is that somebody saying that, I agree with you, like that makes them a shithead. But also like it is their right to do it.
Freedom of speech, yeah.
And
but there is a like thing about freedom of speech that it can be like hateful speech, right?
Yeah, I don't even know where I 100% stand about that either.
Yeah.
To be really honest.
That's more on like hateful speech towards like a whole group of people, right?
Something like that. But even then, okay, so this is like, I talk about this a lot with my friends and stuff. I think I have extremist middle of the road views.
Oh yeah.
Like seriously, is like extremist middle of the road.
Yeah.
Is like, I think you should be able to like talk about being a Nazi. You should talk about like hating Jews. You should talk about like whatever your like hateful, crazy, weird thing is. Like, you should be able to do that.
Really? And what do you think the benefit is of like being able to do that? Just because we're in America?
No, one time. Okay, this is way out there. There is a ancient Greek.
I love
king,
how much I learned during these podcasts.
No, he wasn't a king. I forget but his name is Xenophon. Xenophon.
Okay.
Made the point that the best disinfectant is light.
Okay.
So let's say we have a society where like there are just always going to be people who are like, they hate black people, they hate Jews, they hate gay people, I don't know. You just can't have this many people without some people that are fucking crazy and hate people.
Yeah, sure.
That is the way that it is. But if as a society we tell those people to like shut up and be quiet, that doesn't make them stop doing it. What it makes them do is just like revel in it more. And then even like what you see now, you get these like groups of people that have these little like fucking online we hate women clubs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As where if it was more socially acceptable, and I think it should just, it's like legal. If you want to yell hateful slurs at somebody, it's like legal to do that. But then what happens is everybody else sees you doing that.
Yeah.
And we get to like cut you off from fucking society. Or somebody's going to teach you a lesson. Do you know what I mean?
But I think that's what has already been done, and the lesson was keep it to yourself.
What do you mean?
Because okay, I feel like that already happened. Like people were, Hitler is a good example. Like he was very outward about his feelings towards Jewish people, and that's what happens whenever you give a voice to somebody like that. Is that they then spread that hate, and then the crazies that maybe didn't even believe that before, but are listening to you, and they're like, I like what that guy's saying. Now you've got a voice for the masses of people that were before had that feeling but maybe weren't acting on it.
Yeah.
And now you've got some momentum going towards that. So I feel like whenever like Trump was in office, for example, it came out, you know, the grab a woman by her pussy kind of stuff. And all these men that like felt that way now had a voice by somebody that was very prominent. And now they felt like, well, I can also say that, and now I can also act on that. So that's my feelings towards it, is that if you allow that behavior, then that behavior, it is going to like catch on. Like they're going to get other people that also feel that way, and you're going to then encourage people who maybe didn't feel that way to now feel that way.
I think it's actually the exact opposite. And I think
Really?
the thing about, look at what, like, not getting into politics and deciding like, oh, this or whatever, but like, Trump just said some pretty, I don't know, I think everybody agrees, said some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Even people who like him would agree. Yeah.
He also didn't win his election. He didn't get voted back in.
That's true.
And a lot of the people that were like the big supporter of his, they got kind of pushed out.
That's true.
Is like, I know what you're saying. Like, so there's always like in arguments, it's called like the Hitler argument. Like you can always go back to like the Hitler argument, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but there's also been an infinite number of other leaders across history, right?
Yes.
And like especially now, right? Like at that time then, media, news, how people got information was very like linear and controlled by a kind of small group of people. Now, like, no, everybody is their own newscaster.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And so the reality is like, if you go out into the world and you, something really bad happens and I'm like, hey, here's the keys to my car. Will you go park it for me? Because my mom's in the hospital. Like 99 or 100 out of 100 people will help you go park their car. They're not going to steal your shit. And they're going to be really good people. And so it's like, that is why I think that, yes, if everybody just says all of their crazy shit, what ends up happening is the people who believe really crazy shit is they get beaten down. But they only get beaten down if they're confronted about their beliefs. Yeah. And they really have to fucking own up to it in front of other large groups of people. Right. And so, and it also happens in the other way. Like we went through the Me Too movement, right? Yeah. Which like, when it started, it did a really good job at setting the bar for like, hey, you can't do this at work. Like you can't grab women or like tell them their fucking tits look good or like whatever, right? But then it kind of kilted into some stuff that was like probably not so good. Right. They were coming after like people who really didn't do anything wrong. Right. Well, then they got attacked. Those people, right? Got attacked and it was like, whoa, too far. Right. Right. And I think the same thing happened with Trump. It was like, we just wanted a change and things were bad. And he came in and it was like, oh, okay, whoa, too hot, too much. Right. Right.
Whenever all of that was happening, well, I guess, when did I start working with that family? I started working with this family, and the dad was, kind of talking to me about Trump coming into office, and he was like, everything is on a pendulum, and that was very eye-opening for me because it's true. Like, the pendulum swings to one side, and then comes back and levels out, and we get more of like the even keel, life is all right, and then it swings to the other side. So it's continuously evening itself out. So I feel like we're probably saying the same thing.
Probably saying the exact same thing. But you do, I think, like one of the guys who I've talked about before is Ray Dalio. I'm just like obsessed with this guy. When he puts everything into like a very macro scale of history, meaning like, don't take like one individual president or like one individual person or like one individual movement, but like right now, from basically, let's call it like 2000 to right now, 2023, is like there have been an increase of populist leaders. So people that are just like saying stuff to get really people riled up. Yeah. And there's been an increase of the number of financial extremes, right? There's been an increase in like small proxy wars, right, and problems. And we view this kind of as like, oh shit, the world's falling apart, things are getting bad, we're getting all tense, right? But the same thing actually happened from 1910 to 1940, which was basically when like the last world superpower changed. Like England ran the fucking whole world.
Right.
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 And what was happening is slowly by slowly we had crazy populist leaders, right? Your Hitlers, your Mussolinis, and Mao Zedong in China, and it kind of and Pol Pot was in that's in Thailand, is it? I don't remember.
You are asking the wrong
Vietnam.
person.
Yeah. Okay, so these small increases, and then you get like in the 1920s here, the financial fucking what do we call it, Black Tuesday or whatever, when the stock markets crashed in the 20s. It's just the same thing. So like all that's going to happen here in the next, it's either 5 years or 20 years, is like the U.S. will no longer be the world superpower. It's going to be another country, and then we'll go back to relative peace.
That is interesting. I saw your video about that just like last week or whatever. So, what's your vision?
What do you mean?
For America.
For America.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we have two choices. It's like we can either keep doing what we're doing now, which is go into more debt, and so we can keep living the lifestyle that we're like used to.
Right.
And enacting, it's not, I don't want to say like liberal policies, but basically policies that allow for people that are not making money to have a little less strain and ease on them.
Yep.
And we spend more money on like wars to have control in different places. And then what ends up happening is like we just end up toppling. And
right.
China will probably become the world superpower. And then once they are, like the world currency will be traded in yuan, and we won't like be at war kind of with them. Like we're in this like kind of vague, like idealistic proxy war with them. Where like they're backing Russia, but we're backing Ukraine, and there's this weird, do you know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, that will that's like probably going to happen no matter what. Or right now we can like toughen up, work really hard, invest in education and innovation, and create jobs and work really hard. And maybe we can push that off for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Like we could do that, but the probability of us doing that is really low.
Do you think that like politics are very much like I'm only seeing today's problems that are going on, and I'm not looking towards like the bigger picture? Or do you feel like that they are looking at like the big picture? Like,
well, of course they're not. It's like I think a lot of times we just end up with this situation where it's like a person, right? It's like, yeah, we all think that we're kind of like looking long term and trying to build into this thing, but then like I don't know, we see a Reese's Pieces and we're like, oh, that was good, right? And it's all it is.
Right.
Is like you're kind of trying, and same as like right now, I think it exacerbates with government because you have like someone in office and they need to look good. And so you can do short-term fixes, right? Like print more money, which eases strain. You can invest money into like Ukraine or into Israel in places where like that helps American control in other countries, but only for a brief period of time.
Right.
Like eventually, no matter what, we've been kicking the can down the road, literally exactly what I said since World War II about Israel, is like eventually that place is going to blow up. It's going to explode and something bad is going to happen.
Right.
We've just basically been funding Israel for 80 years so that way we have control like in the Middle East.
Right.
But eventually it will end.
Right.
There's just no way around it.
Do you think that the president needs an age cap? Like you can only be up to 60 years old.
I don't think that that's the problem. I think the problem is like the thing that Warren Buffett said is like, you can't run for re-election if you have over a 3% deficit.
Ooh.
So what that would do is it'd keep like, right now, again, like why do we do these like job campaigns, or we do like just these short-term fixes like across the U.S. all the time, because then like that's how you get votes in the immediacy to run for the next election.
Right.
But what you really probably needed to do was like not spend the government money. Don't do anything that's like going to help people in the immediacy. Say like, hey, we're actually going to make the work week 42 hours a week. You got to work more. We're going to take less money out of your taxes, and we're going to not spend any money on these other things. And everybody's life is going to be a lot more miserable in the short run. but all of our lives are going to be a lot better in the long run.
Right.
But that doesn't win votes.
Right.
So it's like, it's just, but again, if we made a law that said it doesn't matter, you can't run for re-election if there's over a 3% deficit in the budget, well, then there wouldn't be a deficit because people would want to fucking run for election again.
I think all of those, like, it's crazy that whenever you say it like that, you're like, yeah, duh. Like, that should just be how it is. And, like, I've heard people talk about, you know, senators shouldn't make more money than their average constituents. And that's genius. But, like, it's never going to happen. That's crazy.
Well, what's funny is it probably will happen when, again, like, we're, like, floating along right now. Like I said, eventually it's going to crash. Like, the American system will just crash. And when it does is when we'll kind of like go back and rewrite part of the fucking Constitution and shit.
Right. Which needs to happen regardless.
Well, it's like it's just going to happen.
It's so old.
Yeah, there's stuff, you know, it's like when after World War II, like Germany rewrote their fucking Constitution. And now they've got a great system. And, you know, like works really well for them. But they also are not a world superpower. Also.
To think that we like have lived this long over or you know by the rules of like 21-year-olds. Is that crazy? Wasn't like Thomas Jefferson like
a kid?
Like 19?
No, he wasn't fucking 19, but I know what you mean. Yeah, but you know what America does have is like we really do better than any other country. Have a system, like there is no perfect system, but it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Like as far as like how your executive, judicial, and the legislative branches work, we really do have a pretty fair, like, yes, there's always fucked up shit, but it's like we're one of the few places in the world where no matter who your parents are or where you're born, you do have a shot of like making it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I know that. So my family that's from Iceland is like, that's a first world, everyone's educated, there's no problem. But like, you ain't gonna get rich. You can't.
Right.
It's not fucking possible. And not even just like rich, I mean like, you're never going to be able, if you just want to really succeed and do something, you have to go somewhere else.
Right.
And that is something that like it's not just in America, but it's pretty uniquely American.
Right. That is really interesting to me whenever I was in college, you know, we had a ton of foreign exchange students, and it was always interesting to me to hear about like this was my only option, like to really like make it, you know, like and they were like over the moon about it. I'm like 18 years old. I'm like, you're coming to Carbondale, Illinois?
For real?
Why? They're like, it is awesome, you know, it's the opportunities are endless. And I know we take that for granted, obviously. For sure. Even like, this is a totally different subject, but you know what is my biggest pet peeve traveling is like, you can't get water just like for free. You have to buy water anywhere you go. And I fucking hate that. I'm like, damn, I've really been taking this for granted my whole life. But like, I'm drinking, you know, 3 gallons a day, and like,
have you ever been to Iceland?
No.
It's just funny that you would mention water. If you go to Iceland, every single Icelandic person will tell you about free water, because they're like really big environmentalists. Like, it's like you actually can walk up to a stream and just like do this and drink, and it's like.
No way.
It's just like, well, yeah, but it's just like clear, beautiful glacial water.
Yeah.
Like anytime the first thing my uncle did is I had brought my girlfriend there to Iceland, and the first thing he did was like made us like go down the street, and he's like, "You drink the water," you know? And she's like, "I'm not drinking that dirt water," but it's such a like, it's a thing they're so proud of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How you can like do that.
So you still have family in Iceland?
They're mostly all in Iceland, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah. We definitely couldn't do that.
No. You'll like, fucking die immediately.
My dog drinking like water whenever we're out on hikes or something, I'm like, I don't know about that one.
I don't feel sick about that.
Yeah. That is really cool though. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's a different thing. But I remember also being, when I went to school, so I went to college in China, and it was like, I was going there at the time all their students, because their parents were the first parents like with a little bit of money. So they were sending kids here.
Yeah.
And I went there and they were like, what the fuck are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you be here?
I think it's interesting that Americans do not see like living, like packing up your things and moving to another country for like potentially the rest of your life, but like even for a short stint, that's not very common in America. Like, I don't know if it's like.
No, but I kind of have a theory about that.
Let me hear it.
Okay. My best friend is from Brazil. They're kind of the same way in Brazil. Okay. Right? I don't think it's like a uniquely American thing. It's just like if you think America's just so fucking big. Yeah. Right? That like you kind of can move across the world and still be in the U.S.
That's true.
Where there's different opportunity and great stuff to do. And do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, I don't know if you live in like France and you go 100 miles, you're in a different country.
That's true.
So it's just like a little different. You know what I mean? And Brazil is the same way. It's so big. You can go to a different state in Brazil, and it's like Brazil makes up 70% of all of South America. So then it's like, well, why go to Chile where they speak Spanish and I speak Portuguese? Right. And I can have, sometimes you just need that to like move and try something different. Yeah. But they can do that there. Same thing in China. Like in China, you can move fucking 3,000 miles and you're still in China.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. Because I'm thinking about me moving to Phoenix from Illinois.
Different world.
Totally different world, but I'm only like a couple hours time difference from my family. The flights are cheaper and we speak the same language.
Same language. Yeah. It's just like doable.
It's true. Yeah.
I think a lot of times we forget it's kind of just about like proximity and ease of use.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course kids that grow up in Europe speak 3 languages. Your friend fucking speaks a different language. Right. Like it just makes sense. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't make as much sense here. It's like, how far do you have to drive to go to where they only speak this other language? Right. Yeah, so, well, why would we? Right. All right. You good?
Time just flies by.
Time flies when we do this.
Yeah.
I'm good with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Killed it.
Cool to that. Hey, buddy.